guys, welcome to another episode of the Retail Perch. I know it's been a week since we talked last time about grocery shop, and we put that out, and we told you we're going to have guests back on the Retail Perch, and we're keeping our promise, and we do. And Gary, how are things out in Denver? Getting cold, chilly?
So it is up in the mountains, Shekar, and cooling off at night, but like today is going to be almost 80 degrees out here. It's unbelievable. So that's part of what I love about this area, right? It gets nice and warm during the day, cools off at night, to sleep nicely. But there's snow out in the mountains.
Wow.
We were just out there a couple of weeks ago, and the tops of the high peaks are getting covered.
Well, as well, these couple of weeks have passed. Obviously, the world hasn't stayed quiet. I just learned this morning that Liz Truss has resigned. She probably had an exciting phase as prime minister. We've heard about the Albertson Kroger news. That's been exciting. Hurricane Ian's come and gone. So lots of things have happened, Gary. And it seems like if we don't do the Retail Perch regularly, the world can't hold itself together. So
that's right.
So anyway, so here we are back, and we have an exciting guest, somebody that we've known, both Gary and I have known for a long time, and we've been trying very hard to schedule him to come on the Retail Perch, and he finally managed to corner him and get him on. So I'm not going to waste any time trying to introduce Todd, because if I had to introduce him, we'd take the rest of the show up. But I am going to let Todd Michaud introduce himself. He's currently the CEO of HuLoop, and he's held many senior positions, including leading many startups in retail tech space. So welcome, Todd, to the Retail Perch.
Thank you, Shekar. I guess you're saying that I have a hard time keeping a job. Is that what you're saying?
Some of a varied career.
A varied career. Sometimes it's beyond my control, where companies have been acquired and consolidated, and other times, of course, I've pursued exciting new things. But as you said, I have had the privilege of working with retailers for the better part of 3 decades, with some really phenomenal companies ranging from IBM, Retalix. I led Revionics. I led Demantech. I was a senior person at Symphony Retail, and now, as you said, maybe amongst other things, I'm the CEO of HuLoop Automation, the next big thing in retail. Just want to tease your audience. The most exciting thing happening in retail these days.
It's terrific. It's terrific. So tell us, what does HuLoop do?
HuLoop is a next generation AI-powered, no-code intelligent automation solution, and I realize that may come across as a lot of words. I'll make it much more simple to understand. We work with retailers and brands to provide them with digital assistants and digital workers to help them augment what their people do. And so today, we talk about the crazy economy, inflation, the supply chain pressures, the cost of labor, all of these headwinds that retailers and brands are facing today. And they're looking for new ways to drive profitable revenue growth, to save money, and drive productivity. So essentially, our digital workers, augment, the human capital within our enterprises, and we automate mundane, tedious, repetitive things that we want to take off the plates of our people. And this sort of benefits the entire organization, ranging from merchandising, it's probably one of the biggest areas, shopper marketing, store operations, lots of opportunity in supply chain, and also, of course, in the back office at the retail headquarters. There's no shortage of things that we do today that can be automated.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, from what I'm seeing across the industry, I think that is becoming a very hot space, right? As I've talked about, written about, I think automation and, specifically what you're doing, Todd, hyper automation using software and all these new tools is potentially one of the most transformative technologies or areas coming into retail right now.
Yeah, Gary, I'll tell you something that I've sort of observed. And so there are certain industry sectors that got into intelligent automation sooner. And generally, the bigger the enterprise was, the more likely that they would have experimented with robotic process automation or intelligent document processing. Part of the reason why we exist is, we see that retailers and brands are being left behind. They haven't been as proactive as other businesses in adopting this very essential technology. But I guess what I would say is that there's probably no industry sector more in need of this type of help. And so HuLoop Automation, my company, is essentially focused on helping retailers and brands figure this out, and perhaps some will play catch up. Those that are already involved can accelerate their adoption of these amazing capabilities.
Yeah, no, it's wild. I've got a great quote from Gartner I use in my presentations, and they say by 2024, organizations are going to lower their operational costs by 30% using hyperautomation tech. I mean, in this industry, as we all know, that's massive.
Yeah.
How else would you accomplish it? A CEO comes to the executive team and says, "Find me 30%." A lot of these enterprises are already struggling with their existing staffing level, and we've got to figure out ways where we can grow without adding people quite so commensurately. And so it's a big problem, big challenge, but that's why it's a huge opportunity to build a great business.
Yeah, I remember, Gary. I think this was maybe last year in one of the episodes on the Retail Perch. We were talking about some of the opportunities that the pandemic and the labor shortage is going to create, which is it's going to force people to think about automation, how they can use technology to augment their needs, right? Whether it's on the
I mean, as Todd just called out, retailers are struggling to get enough people working right across the organization. Every CIO I speak with, no matter a small retailer, big retailer, doesn't have enough developers. They're losing developers to, big tech. So they're all really being challenged here. But the other side of automation that I think a lot of companies miss, and certainly retailers are missing, is, on one side, you've got significant cost savings, resource savings available. But on the other side are, with the right systems, you got more effective decisions that are being made faster, right? So, I'll look at what a Bird's Eye does, right? Around marketing automation and really sophisticated personalization. So not only, less people to do all this, but you've got better, faster decisions being made that result in this case, in sales lift and improved retention and other things.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I guess there's one other phenomena that is occurring out in other industries that will affect retailers and brands as well. And that is any CIO, CTO that you speak to has got too many things to do, not enough resources to do it, not enough budget. There's not the appetite to do rip and replace on enterprise level systems, whether we're talking about core merchandising systems or enterprise technology. It's just not the priority these days. And so we need to recognize that those systems are going to remain in place as retailers look for more tactical or targeted opportunities that can be deployed quickly and deliver a faster ROI. Now, how do you work in that environment with, again, that challenge that the CEO raised, go find me 30%. And ultimately, if you look hard, what we've come to learn is that these existing systems that are in place today, some of them legacy, some of them modern, some of them on premise, some of them in the cloud, they probably only automate about 30% of the actual task. The 70% that are unautomated sort of fall between systems. Maybe they are in email, text messages, maybe they're in Excels that are bouncing around our organization. And so if you're the CIO or CTO and you're trying to figure out how to deal with these things, you've only got one choice, and you've got to figure out ways to provide citizen enablement. That's a term that I'd like to share with people, and that just basically means how can we get our non-technical business people the types of tools and capabilities that they can empower themselves and solve some of these problems for themselves. So when I describe this no-code environment, this is a phenomena that's happening across lots of different technology providers. And the idea is, in the past, I needed a change to satisfy a business requirement. I'd go to IT, they'd go to the vendor would go and put a very expensive SOW in place to modify the system. It would take too long, cost too much, and by the time the change was deployed in the environment, maybe it didn't yield the results. So today, with intelligent automation, maybe business analysts supporting merchandising or shopper marketing will be empowered to create capabilities themselves quickly without the need for a technical resource in an IT sanctioned, secure fashion and render capabilities. And the net effect is we get the automation that we're looking for. Maybe they're bots that get created or other capabilities, but fundamentally, at the end of the day, something has come off IT's to-do list, which is a good outcome.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I think it's all fascinating in terms of whether retailers can get their head around the gaps that they have in their own processes and where some of this fits in. And obviously, there's some education that's required for them to even understand that I need this, right? I'm guessing you have on HuLoop's website plenty of resources to help these businesses to understand the needs.
Shekar, I'm glad you asked that because you're right. Sometimes these things are hidden. And so we just came out with a new piece of innovation that we're kind of proud of that I think kind of answers the question. And so as I've talked to CEOs, CTOs, and others, and they say, well, gosh, Todd, the intelligent automation sounds interesting, but I don't know where to target it or what to do. So what we have announced is what we call data-driven process and task mining. And what this does is we deploy a little piece of technology on all of the desktops, and it essentially captures information on what our users are doing, what applications are they using, how much time do they spend in the applications, how much time do they spend, by the way, maybe on non-company business on their desktops doing maybe private things that we won't track. But at the end of the day, what this will do is identify what are the current processes today, the real processes, and what are the opportunities for automation, productivity increases, a variety of different things. Now, one simple second, well, I guess I'll give you two benefits of this technology that are sort of unforeseen. One is so many retailers have licensed software that is underutilized or not utilized. And so being able to say, well, I've subscribed to these software products, I don't need to pay for them anymore because people aren't using them. That's a very simple savings. The second thing is with all of this post-COVID work from home, hybrid work from the office, imagine finally having data-driven intelligence that helps you to understand, well, maybe people really are more productive working from home, or maybe they aren't, or maybe just certain job functions are. So this is how we're essentially helping retailers to create an automation pipeline that they can tackle based upon the ROI for their business. And so quite simple, efficient way to figure out the answer to the question.
Cool, very cool. So if you don't mind me shifting subjects here, talk about a little bit more about your history and where you spent a lot of your time. And obviously, this is a topic that's we discuss a lot. So just a couple of news items, obviously, that have come out. So this whole Albertson Kroger merger, what does it do to shifting people's mindsets about technologies, and what do you think is going through a independent's mind when they think about the Albertson Kroger proposed merger?
Well, first, it's going to create lots of opportunity, and so it's easy to think about competing with this behemoth now, but Kroger and Albertsons were already large enterprises, and now they're only going to be larger. And of course, if you're an independent or a regional player, you can out innovate, out hustle, out think, out compete a large enterprise that perhaps can't move as fast. Because the merger has some overlap, obviously a number of stores will become available. So it could become a growth opportunity for regionals that are in markets, where these stores will be sold off. That could be an exciting opportunity, because generally both enterprises have got beautiful store sites, and they've obviously if they have overlap, that'll represent a great growth opportunity. From a technology perspective, I think at the end of the day, both Albertsons and Kroger's are quite innovative companies. They lead both organizations. You could inarguably say they've invested capital, they've innovated in the market, and oftentimes regional or independents haven't been so quick. And I would just encourage everybody, use this as an opportunity to sort of wake up and smell the coffee. We can't keep on doing things the same old way that we've always done them. We need to perhaps jump ahead of the innovation curve, and it's okay to be first at something, even if you fail and try something else. That's the whole idea around innovation. And so I hope that if you go back to the Amazon acquisition of Whole Foods just a couple of years ago, this sort of created a similar phenomenon where everybody sort of got a little bit of religion. I think that this will do the same thing, and I also think that this is the start of a lot of consolidation. I think regionals are going to integrate with other regionals. There's a real focus on scale and consolidation at this point to drive out cost and do other things. So I think it's going to be a changed landscape over the years ahead. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Gary.
So I think I agree with much of what you just said, Todd. I think it is absolutely going to sort of reshuffle the industry here, because if that combination is successful, what we're going to have is a Walmart and a Kroger doing over $200 billion a year, right? And then the next biggest player is, I think it was Publix or Ahold Delhaize is around 48 or 50 billion. I mean, there's a heck of a spread there. And then obviously, all the smaller players beneath that. So there's going to be a real chasm that opens up here. And I think, as you were speaking to, I think one of the areas we're going to see that really impact is around innovation, and completely agree. Just like Amazon buying Whole Foods 5 years ago triggered, it was a wake-up call to traditional retailers, right? This should be another wake-up call to them to accelerate even more their focus on innovation and change. The scary part is if they don't get that call or hear the alarm, right? Because these big guys, and even though Amazon doesn't have the revenue in grocery of Walmart, Kroger, I think the three of those companies obviously have massive resources and are focused on reinventing grocery retail.
One thing that's kind of an interesting phenomena when you consolidate, two large enterprises, it affects people that maybe we're building something within one or the other. And there's going to be an amazing amount of extraordinary talent, available on the market, to help regional players, mom and pops, rethink how, they apply innovation. And so that's kind of a side benefit, I guess, is that some brilliant person that maybe worked for one or the other becomes available to help, a regional player or a mom and pop, think differently.
Yeah. And I think I wasn't there for it, but I'm sure something like this happened with dunnhumby too, right? Because I see the dunnhumby players all over the place, right, in different companies. And you're absolutely right. I think the other thing that I feel may happen is it may force companies to think about how they even budget, right? Because I think traditionally we've seen a lot of knee-jerk reactions in terms of how they spend. or some people go over the top and buy every shiny object. I think they're going to step back and say, how can we strategically approach this? Because this is now, a real threat / opportunity. And if I don't watch myself, I stand to be completely taken over, right? Either by the combination or another independent who's just much more agile and nimble in terms of. So I think if you're in the technology
Shekar, I'll
sector,
tell you this: you're going to smile at me. It's actually a really great time to be the CEO of Birdseye, and the reason why is because, of course, both Kroger and Albertsons were really amazing companies at shopper custody, shopper marketing, et cetera. And you're bringing together two powerhouses that had amazing loyalty programs and were quite excellent at personalization. And so if you're a regional, with or without a loyalty program, look, we know that shoppers want to be engaged in a personalized way. And so, you need technology fit for purpose, fit for scale, that can essentially bring to your shoppers the same capabilities that they would otherwise get, from Albertsons or Kroger. And I just honestly think that, regional and independent retailers have the ability to out-personalize the big guys. For sure. So, you're going to be presiding over this huge company someday. Maybe you'll be as big as Albertsons and, Kroger combined. Who thought that? Birdseye, this billion-dollar company.
You're talking about us? Okay. All right. So let's get back to the Retail Perch. That's exciting. But I think, and in the high level, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of exciting opportunities now because, I think what I've seen traditionally happen in the retail industry is when there is a basically, a quake of the sort, there is a shift in focus, and the shift is very decided, and it creates a trend, and it creates a whole bunch of new companies that can now grow. That's right. We've seen that with Amazon buying Whole Foods. I know that was kind of like the beginning of the e-commerce explosion, where it was suddenly everybody realized, oh my God, I need to be able to sell my products online, because otherwise everybody's going to go to Amazon. So I think it's terrific for the industry. It drives innovation. I mean, I know a lot of people may not agree with that fact that it's terrific for the industry, but I think you have to admit that change is good sometimes, and it makes you rethink. And, I'm sure there's a lot of, board meetings that are happening, trying to figure out what's going to happen, So.
Yeah. So I agree. I think it can be good for the industry if, retailers, regional retailers, smaller retailers, take away the right messages from this. But, Shekar, as you were calling out a couple of minutes ago, you look to even the recent past, we see a lot of retailers just chasing the next shiny object, or, gee, I'm reading about this technology and all the, newsletters lately, we got to have this. Mm-hmm. What I see and what I give Walmart and Kroger immense credit for is they approach innovation with a very structured process. Right now, obviously, they've got the resources to do this, but they take a very strategic, very methodical approach to innovation. And I just see that missing across even these bigger regional guys that have the resources, that they don't always look at it or think of it that way. And I think that, any size retailer has got to think more strategically, and they have got to develop some type of process, that helps them discover, learn about, test, and deploy new technology, new capabilities, and do it ever faster.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I see happening here, Gary and Todd, is a consolidation or roll-up, even on the tech solution provider side, right? Because there's lots of niche players who provide solutions, but I think as these kinds of mergers happen, there is a need to have a single vendor that I can get more from, which is bigger, more stable, provide more services, right, as opposed to, because, if you think about it, Kroger, Albertson now have most of these stuff internally, and there's one organization they're depending on. And I think as these retail regionals get more sophisticated, they're not going to want to deal with 20 different vendors for their technology needs. They're going to need to think about, hey, I want 2 or 3 players that are my strategic partners in making this happen. So I think it's exciting times, if you ask me. It's a little scary, but I think scary is when you get the good stuff, right? I think traditionally in this country, we've seen when there's recessions or projected economic downturns, that's when the most innovation actually happens.
Yeah, you're
right?
spot on. You're spot on.
Yeah, I think there's another area too that I'm watching that I think we're going to see accelerate through this Kroger play is in the whole food and healthcare convergence space, right? I mean, we've seen Walmart and Kroger be more and more active and aggressive in that space. Not only bringing out increasing food guidance to shoppers, helping them filter through all 50,000 products in the store, recipes, et cetera. We're seeing both Walmart, Kroger bringing clinics into the store. I think we're going to see that whole space accelerate even further, given this acquisition, right? Where they have more resources, more physical stores in more areas of the country now, aggressively working to connect back into healthcare, health insurance companies, payers, et cetera.
I agree with you, and that should be an indication to regionals and mom and pops, to focus on that trend now. It is true that it's almost been church and state between wellness and retail. No longer, shoppers are expecting their retailers to help them live healthier, live better. And they're looking, for the data that have been collected on both sides to be harmonized to provide better guidance to them and their families.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a crazy prediction here, Gary, which we can place bets on. But I think in the next 12 months, I think somebody's going to acquire Instacart, and my bet is on Amazon. Because I think when I think about fulfillment, when I think about e-commerce, and I think about how these retailers realize e-commerce is here to stay and they're struggling to figure out how to make it profitable, you need somebody with the massive fulfillment and logistics capabilities to be able to take that weight off of the retailer's shoulders. And I think it's going to happen. Somebody's going to acquire it. And I think clearly this has not been the season for the IPOs. So, I think an IPO at the current climate is out of the question. So I think the next target is figure out how to, and I think this whole Albertson Kroger merger, if it happens, will actually accelerate the need to think about how do I make e-commerce profitable, because that's a huge challenge for retailers today.
Yeah, well, Instacart just lowered their valuation again. I saw in the last couple of days, right, down to 13 billion, I think now. Far cry from 39 billion. They were just a year and a half ago.
Wasn't that the number that Amazon bought Whole Foods for?
It was 17 billion.
Oh, it was 17. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But, to your point, 13 billion, obviously it's 13 billion, but it puts it well within range of a number of different players now to think about.
Yeah.
Well,
it's the kind of number.
Maybe you've stoked a bidding war over Instacart just with your pontification. What do you think? Maybe you should get a thank you card, from the CEO of Instacart for the competitive process that you just launched publicly.
There you go. But think about it. Even the announcement by Amazon of this will probably raise their stock by more than 13 billion. That'll bankroll acquisition.
Yeah. Well, when Amazon bought Whole Foods, Amazon's stock went up enough in that one day to pay for that acquisition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I see retailers struggling with this e-commerce. They know it's here to stay. They can't figure out how to make it profitable. It's because they're not a logistics and fulfillment company. They're about servicing customers in store and providing great experience. It's a new world for them.
Well, one thing for sure that the Albertsons Kroger deal sets in motion, whether it's with Instacart or other things, there's going to be a lot of deals happening. Deals happening in retail, deals happening, with tech providers. I thought your point was spot on. The market's littered with too many underfunded tech companies at this point, and it's natural, especially going into economic headwinds, for there to be some consolidation in the space. That's going to happen. And so it's going to be an exciting time, and why wouldn't we want it to be exciting? Life would be boring without, some of these things coming up and from time to time surprising us.
Yep, that's
Right.
right.
Well, Gary, Todd, I know it's been a terrific conversation. We're coming up on the 35 minutes. My God, time flies, Todd. So,
well, I spent most of it just introducing myself.
I'll leave that for the listeners to decide. So, no, it's always exciting to talk to you guys. I mean, you guys have spent your lives in retail, either in the grocery stores, talking to grocers, or building technology that serves them. So, I think for the listeners, this is a feast, absolute feast, to be able to listen to both Gary and Todd. And but thank you so much for being a guest on the Retail Perch. I know this will not be the last time. We're going to probably invite you back. There's lots of exciting things happening, I know, in your world and in our world. And if you were to give us your mailing address, we will actually send across the Retail Perch coffee mug. And you can add it to the list of coffee mugs that I see in your background.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. I bet you that coffee is going to taste so much better.
Without question. That's our promise to our guests, that, there's no coffee better than coffee in a Retail Perch mug.
I'm hoping it's a clean mug and that there's not lipstick on the rim.
I can't promise you anything. Send me the mug. But Todd, again, thank you for taking the time and being on the Retail Perch. Gary, any closing thoughts here?
Well, Todd, thanks for being with us today. Great conversation.
I enjoyed it. You guys take care. Thanks, gentlemen.
All right. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Make sure to join us every Monday and connect with us at the Retail Perch on Instagram and Facebook.
And if you have any questions, feel free to email us at theretailperch@birdseye.com.
Until next time, this is Shekar.
And this is Gary, signing off.